Hey everybody, so now I'm going to be doing the what kind of reader are you tag. Question number 1. How do you find out about new books? Well, I used to work for a bookstore. I've worked at libraries and volunteered at libraries for pretty much my entire life. Working at a bookstore, working at a library really gives you a great opportunity to interact with people and find out like what people are reading. I used to do the displays in the main area and in the teen area. So I would do it by cover or I would do it by subject matter. So finding those books was very similar to how I find for books in general, which is through Goodreads, based on what you like reading and what shelves you have and what you rate books. They will recommend books to you, and you'll be able to find like different lists that people have made based on different subjects, like Native Americans, books with people of color as the main character, to like werewolves or best dystopian books, teen YA dystopia. So they have like a lot of different ways to find that on Goodreads. I also use something called, I always forget the name, Novelist. You can kind of look up these different things that you're interested in, and then what it will do is it'll generate a list of books that are similar based on all the parameters. Or what you can do is then you have like a little checkbox to the side of the page, and you can start checking things that you liked about that particular book. So I really liked Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, so what I did was I searched Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I liked the fact that it was Scandinavian and it was very dark and it was a mystery. So, and there was a female main character. So all those things were, I tried to see if they were available as a checkbox, and if they were, I checked them off, and then I hit search, and then it brought up books that also had those criteria. Second question. How did you get into reading? From my mom is the short answer. The long answer is my mom has been reading to me since I was in the womb. So we literally read together every day, and she would read out loud. And from when I was a baby to when I was probably a senior in high school. That was a major part of growing up. I really liked doing that. And that made reading so much more fun because I was sharing it with another person, and I could, at the end of the book, I could talk to my mom about what I liked and what I didn't like and what she liked and she didn't like, and we would kind of exchange thoughts and ideas about it. So not only did my mom instill a love of reading in me, but I also had amazing teachers that went out of their way to be incredibly supportive and engaging with their students. Specifically, Mrs. A in 3rd grade, I transferred into her classroom in the middle of the school year, and in one of the ways that she got her class to engage with reading was she would have a list, like a sheet of paper, and she'd pass it around the room every week. Every student would get a chance to write down a book or a series or an author that they were interested in reading, and she would go to the library, the public library, not the school library, and she would get those books for the class. She would check them out using her own card, and she would bring them to school, and we'd have them in a little crate, and we could read them throughout the week. We'd have quiet reading time, and we were allowed to go over to that crate and read it. I think we were allowed to take them home. We'd have to sign them out. It's a lot of trust to put into a bunch of 3rd graders. So like while my mom and I would read books that we were both interested in, she was very adamant in if I wanted to read something and it didn't interest her, or it was something that she was just like, no, I'm not going to do that, then I had to read it. I'd read the Babysitter Club books by myself because my mom didn't want to read those to me. A lot of the Star Wars books when I got older, there's a lot of them. Yep, some of them are here. So, for example, Star Wars Young Jedi Knights Shadow Academy. This one is my Star Wars, very beloved Star Wars Shadows of the Empire book. It is totally falling apart. There's tape on it. It smells incredibly musty. And on this, in my very 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade handwriting, times read 5. Yeah, this is bought at Crown Books for $5.39. That was cheap. Books used to be cheap. But anyway, this would be like $7.99 or more now. Same book, more expensive. So anyway, here, let me put my books back. They're out of order now. No. How has your taste in books progressed? A lot. It hasn't. I mostly read fantasy now, and paranormal, whereas when I was a little younger, I also read paranormal and fantasy, but I was really interested in science fiction because of my whole love for Star Wars and Farscape and Battlestar Galactica. Something that did change was that when I was a teenager, I was totally in love with Francesca Lia Block's literature. I had a list of all of her books in high school, and every time a new one would come out, I'd read it. I can't say that it's something that grew up with me. You know, I'm a different person than I was then, and I don't read it as much or feel the burning desire to keep reading it. How often do you buy books? Not too often, not as often as I used to. Like I said before, I used to work at a bookstore, and that was incredibly tempting. When I would work, I would inevitably spend most of my paycheck and put it back into the store because, I mean, it was there, and, you know, I'm working with them all day. I have people coming up to me and buying books that I'm like, ooh, I want to read that. Do we still have it? Was that the last copy? Okay, which one is the first one in that series? Okay, that's in the children's section. However, if I go to Roman's bookstore in Pasadena or another independent bookstore, you have better believe that I will be spending most of my paycheck there because that is an incredibly fun store to browse. Yeah, I don't buy books too often unless I really want a certain one, or I go into a place like Roman's and at the end of the day I have a huge stack of books that I have to whittle down because I don't have that much money. Let's see, how did you get into booktubing? I'm not really a booktuber, I don't think. I wouldn't categorize myself as any kind of YouTube genre. I'm not like a beauty blogger, I'm not like a booktuber. I like what I like and I'm going to talk about it. So, you know, I guess you could say I fell into it and it was inevitable that I would eventually have booktube videos, but I wouldn't call myself a booktube person. How do you react when you don't like the end of a book? I don't really react. I really wish they had done this instead, or I would rewrite it to be this way. But I don't really do that with books as much as I do that with movies. I'm overly critical with movies because I think that comes from doing 4 years of film school. You kind of have to. It's inevitable that you will become super critical of everything you watch because you've been trained to be super critical of everything you watch. Just like I imagine an English major becomes super critical of everything they read. I don't get too upset. I kind of am just like, whatever. It wasn't a good book then. So I guess like if I really didn't like the ending, I usually don't even get that far because if I don't like the way the book's going, I'm not gonna read it. I'll just stop. There's only been a few books that I've ever been like, oh my god, I hated that ending, but it was because I didn't like the book as a whole. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever run into that problem. How often do you take a sneaky look at the last page? When I was a kid, I would get anxious in the middle of a book, like, you know, like something's happening to the character and they're gonna get in trouble and oh my god, like I can't handle this, so I'm gonna kind of skip ahead, skip a couple chapters. Oh, everything worked out, yay! I knew it was going to. Everything's cool. So, yeah, I guess not even like skipping or taking a look at the last page, but skipping ahead, I'm guilty of. How many people are you going to tag? I don't really like tagging. I think that if you think a tag is cool and you want to do it, you should do it. You shouldn't feel obligated to do something because someone tagged you in it. You shouldn't feel like, oh, no one tagged me, so I can't do it. Because that is just, that sucks. That really, really sucks. And that kind of upsets me. Makes me all angry. You should do it. If you want to do it, do it. Yeah. The end. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.
Apprends-moi poémique, mais dans ces danses que j'ai à t'aimer, je ne te répète.
That was my cell phone. If it sounded like a fart, that was my cell phone. My cell phone's ringtone does not sound like a fart, but it kind of did then.